At birth, in the darkness of winter, it weighs only a pound. In adulthood, it is one of the most admired and feared animals in North America. Its hearing is sharp. Its sense of smell so keen it can catch the scent of food miles away. It can sprint 50 yards in 3 seconds and run as fast as 35 miles an hour. It can bring down prey with a single blow of its paw. Ursus arctos horribilis, the grizzly bear. The grizzly is at odds with only one other species, man.
I could feel the flesh ripping. I could hear that, the sound, the typical sound you hear in television or something, but I didn't feel any pain. I didn't feel anything at all, really.
Adversary, trophy, monster. It might seem that bear and man are at war. Yet today, as they study the great beast, humans find themselves the reluctant stewards of a threatened species. For thousands of years, the grizzly has captured the human imagination, and for some, it now dominates how they enjoy the outdoors. In the same way, humans dominate the bear's future, deciding where and how it will live. Until now, the great bear has thrived in folktale, legend, and wilderness. Today, the grizzly survives only by man's consent. Researchers come to a land where time is old, where a way of life has been unchanged for thousands of years. 10 minutes by helicopter from Juneau, Alaska, is Admiralty Island. In times before, it was called Fortress of the Bears. Even today, 1,500 of the great animals roam these forests and alpine peaks.
Up there, Vern. Let's see if we can get up the ridge. Yeah, looks like it might be a sow with a big cub. There's a nice set of tracks right there, Vern.
John Shane and Vern Beyer of the Alaska Department of Fish and Game study the bears of Admiralty.
Right there. Yeah, looks like they're using it.
Along a ridge, they follow the path worn deep into the tundra by generations of bears traversing the peaks, each walking precisely in the steps of the one that went before. Shane and Beyer are searching for a secret and hidden place, the den where a bear spends the winter. Radio tracking information leads them to a rock cave high on a cliff.
Nice cave.
Here, one of their study animals hibernated with her 2-yearling cubs.
Fantastic. Look at that. Beautiful. What a view. Look.
The family is now grazing on the tidal flats below, and the cave will remain empty until another bear comes looking for a winter home. The researchers enter a world few humans ever see.
Last time they nested right there, it looks like. Yeah, looks like yeah. So there was number 64 and her 2 yearling cubs.
This cave has been used by bears for centuries.
Look at the ceiling. Look at all the hair. Yeah. It's pretty smoothly rubbed. Look at that.
That's more than we've seen in a while. Look at the hair on it, too.
Look at all the hair in that moss.
The insulating nest is made of moss, leaves, and branches the bear dragged into the cave.
Yeah, just smelling here, you can't smell anything. Yeah, it's really clean. Yeah. In that one spot, you can almost stand up. Oh yeah, I can. I'm just a little guy.
In this dark world, safe from intruders, the female and her 2 yearlings slept half a year, neither eating nor eliminating.
Should we get some measurements?
They lived entirely on their reserves of body fat.
Just put this down like that. That would be...
A bear's winter sleep is one of the marvels of biology. Its ability to endure the harsh months of the year is no less amazing today than it was for peoples of the past.
63 centimeters.
To the Indians of the Pacific Northwest, the grizzly was a spirit messenger, a source of power. In these rare pictures from the early part of this century, the grizzly is portrayed in ceremonial dances. Tribes honored the bear with names such as Elder Brother and Old Man with the Claws. The grizzly could be the spirit helper of men, and there were legends of a human spirit inhabiting the body of a bear. The bear taught the ancestors what to eat and how to survive. But the secret of sleeping through the winter was never learned, because man killed a bear before the lesson could be taught. In our world, the grizzly is made to be many things: a cuddly teddy bear and a walking nightmare, competitor with man and monarch of the forest. From the admiration and scorn heaped upon the bear, the grizzly that emerges for most of us is the one immortalized as a symbol of all that is wild and wilderness. For an animal that roams so freely in the human imagination, most of us know surprisingly little about the real grizzly, even how it got its name. Instead, put on display is the animal's natural ferocity, celebrated and even romanticized. The name grizzly comes from the silver-tipped or gray grizzled appearance some of them have. But the color of the bear's fur can vary widely with age, time of year, or where they live. For a grizzly cub to survive, it must stay with its mother and mimic her every move for at least the first 2 years of its life. The search for food largely determines the bear's range. It can be as small as 10 square miles or more than 1,000. When it comes to diet, the grizzly is flexible and opportunistic. In early spring, there is the carrion of animals that died during the winter. Later, the occasional game it can catch. In the half year it is active, every meal the grizzly eats is preparation for the long months of fasting. In summer, bears that fish have a feast during the spawning run. They savor the delicacy of the fat-rich brains, skin, and roe, much more important than protein to tide them through winter. Massive shoulder muscles make it a powerful digger, and although equipped with the long claws and great canine teeth of a carnivore, 80% of a grizzly's diet is vegetarian: roots, berries, nuts, and greens. Naturalist John Muir wrote of the grizzly, "To him, almost everything is food except granite." Mother and cub share a close bond. A few siblings continue to feed and play together as young adults, but eventually they drift apart. Once grown, a bear will spend most of its time alone and even fear others of its own kind. tenacity of mothers defending their young is unmatched. It's a vital precaution. Males, on occasion, will make a meal of a cub. Conflicts over status or food are usually resolved through complex body language and psychological sparring. If that fails, then it may come to blows. Bart the bear is a 1,300-pound movie actor. The largest of the great bears, his kind comes from Alaska's Kodiak Island. Bart's partner is animal trainer and stuntman Doug Seuss, who has raised him from a cub.
Come here, come here, come here. Good boy.
Bart's played all the stock roles, dispatching cavemen, terrorizing pioneers, and wrestling with Indians.
Wide.
Bowing to the needs of Hollywood, he's learned to roar silently. The sound will be dubbed in later.
Good boy.
Doug's ability to work closely with Bart has given him unique insights to the bear.
Strike.
If things don't go a bear's way, they go insane. I've seen grizzlies play with a snowball, and the snowball break. The grizzly cannot comprehend that the snowball had the audaciousness to break, and they will go completely insane, retching the side of their face, turning around and biting their back foot in displaced aggression, going insane. And it's just as quick as they eliminate that aggressive behavior, they're on their feet again, and everything's happy-go-lucky. So, you know, the transition between that end of the spectrum and the other is instantaneous. It just goes like this all the time.
Good boy. Good boy.
Grizzlies are by far the easiest to train, but the hardest to tame. They're always testing. They'll take up with the attitude, they will actually pretend that they are not doing anything wrong, like a child. Looking off into the distance, maybe they try to grasp control over your particular little territory. You may be standing in 1 square foot, and that is your particular piece of space. And they'll come over to you and they'll try and push you off that particular 1 square foot. But they will do it such that they're just looking over here, that they're not going to come right in like this and push you off the space, you understand? And then when they push you off passively like that, they'll look at you to determine if you caught the infraction.
Wide.
Dressed in Indian costume, Doug prepares a stunt for an upcoming film.
Wrestle. Come on, wrestle. No. Good boy. Don't touch. Don't touch. Good boy. Good boy. Don't touch. Good boy. That's good. Don't touch. Good boy. Don't touch. Good. Don't touch. Don't touch. Good boy. Oh, good boy.
Doug Seuss believes the grizzly is almost as intelligent as the great apes, the opinion of a man whose life depends on understanding how the bear thinks.
Good.
Newspaper headlines tend to portray the great bear as a bloodthirsty killer. Yet more people are struck by lightning than are mauled by grizzlies. The grizzly evolved in the open spaces of North America, where a quick counterattack with teeth and claws was the best protection when threatened. A bear's aggressive behavior is often in self-defense. Even so, when an unarmed human meets a grizzly, the outcome can be deadly, and the choice is with the bear.
I had what has been sometimes referred to as a close encounter of the furry kind. And it happened in totally unexpected way.
Yellowstone Ranger Barbara
I guess,
Pettinga and her husband
like
were
most
scouting
people
the
who come
trail
to
for a
Park,
nature walk when they surprised a resting bear.
These sorts of things happen to other people.
200 feet off to her right, Barbara saw a dead bison.
Both of us had had some training and done reading about what kinds of things to be wary about in bear country. We knew we shouldn't stay in the area. We knew we should definitely not approach the carcass of the dead animal. But I was curious enough to want to know whether it had been fed on.
Nearby was the grizzly that had been feeding on it. The bear charged.
Her ears were flattened down along her head, and all of the hair was flattened, so she looked very, very streamlined, and she was fully stretched out, so she was coming fast. And it's a terribly frightening thing to see. It's a real jolt to see something coming like that and knowing that it's happening. The next I knew, I was on the ground and the bear was on top of me, and she was moving around a lot, and I could feel the claws, either claws or teeth or both, I don't know which, and I was screaming, and my husband told me afterwards that I was yelling, "Oh no, oh no." And almost as soon as I realized that I was yelling, I also realized I had to stop, that my best chance was to play dead, which I did. And as soon as I became quiet, the bear left me. And as soon as she reached the top of the slope, she came racing back down again. She seemed to stop just downslope of me, and she hooked her claws under the uphill side of my body and pulled me over on my back. And she did it with enough momentum that I could use that momentum to get all the way face down again. I didn't open my eyes. I didn't look at the bear at all. And she did this 3 times. She just simply pulled me over onto my back. I rolled with it, rolled face down again, and then the bear left.
Go ahead, MS-20. This is Evanston Regional.
Dr. Steve French is an emergency room physician in Evanston, Wyoming.
Where are you hurting now?
Not just my leg.
Have any problems breathing?
Casualties of car wrecks, fights, and accidents are his stock in trade.
Does that hurt?
Oh,
He has also attended victims of bear attacks.
That hurt down there?
no.
Were you thrown from the car? The remarkable thing about human-bear encounters is very few people get killed when there is actually an aggressive action. And there is a certain amount of ambivalence, I don't think there's any question, that a bear experiences when it sees a human. The vast majority of the time, as soon as a bear perceives a human's presence, either through smell, sight, or sound, it will flee the area, probably 9 times out of 10. Perhaps 1 time out of 10, it's going to approach that stimulus to see or identify what it is. Occasionally, it may even bluff charge a human. But of those times that it approaches the human, probably 9 times out of 10, it's either bluff charge or identity charge, so it'll come up, stand up, look at you, and then run away. So in fact, only about 1 out of 100 encounters result in the bear making contact with the human. And if the human doesn't fight, doesn't flee, and therefore excite that predatory instinct in the bear, and covers its the facial area, the abdominal area up, and doesn't fight and kick and be very still, the bear usually comes over, slaps around a little bit, maybe bites, and then as soon as it perceives as the threat is removed, it leaves the area. Those people that fight and those people that try to get up and run when it's too late tend to get the more serious injuries than those that lay still.
Steve French has gained most of his knowledge of the grizzly in the field.
Certainly, I started looking into the bear because I had an anger toward this species that hurt my species. When I learned more about the grizzly bear and studied it in its own environment, I found that it really doesn't care about us. It doesn't try to kill us. It doesn't stalk us. It really could care less about humans. And so now then, I have become a student of the bear, an admirer of the bear, a lover of the bear, and wish to do those things which I can contribute as a private citizen to help preserve the bear.
Almost any day he's not practicing medicine, Steve and his wife Marilyn can be found hiking the hills of Yellowstone National Park, filming and photographing the bear. Through thousands of hours of observation, they are documenting the life history and behavior of an animal they feel is without equal in North America.
To be out in the wild and to see a grizzly bear, to observe that grizzly bear living and doing its own thing is an experience that I cannot give you. I would like to think that I have the ability to go out and to teach and educate people to understand the bear as I do. But I think until a person actually goes out in the field, he still won't have the same empathy that I have for the bear.
For Steve French, these films are a way to share that experience with those who will never see a grizzly in the wild. For the day may come, and not too many years away, when the bear that walks like man no longer roams North America. In ancient times, the brown bear was found in North Africa, throughout Europe, and across the whole of Asia. About 50,000 years ago, the ancestors of today's bear crossed a land bridge to North America and spread from the Arctic Ocean to Mexico, from the Pacific to beyond the Mississippi. Over the last century, continually at odds with the civilized world, the bear's domain and numbers have shrunk to some 50,000 in Alaska and Canada, and scarcely 900 left in pockets in the lower 48 states. In the ranchero days of California, there were an estimated 10,000 grizzlies. They were killed in sport as contenders in bear and bullfights. When the Yankees came west in search of prosperity, the grizzly was killed as a nuisance, pest, and public danger. Only in hindsight did we realize the bear was disappearing. In 1916, the last grizzly in Southern California was shot while pilfering a beehive. The last grizzly in Arizona, 1935. Northern Mexico, 1957. Today, the grizzly is found only in wild areas, a few national forests, and a handful of national parks where they are protected. The bears have free range here in Alaska's Katmai National Park. Along the Alaskan coast, the common name for the grizzly is the brown, or brownie. And in a part of Katmai called Brooks Camp, they've become partners in an unusual experiment. Accessible only by boat or float plane, Brooks Camp is a fisherman's paradise. At the height of the season, planes line the shore of the lake with more than 50 people a day going after sockeye salmon, rainbow trout, and Arctic grayling. During the same few weeks each summer, the great bears come to feed at the fish-choked river. With bears and people fishing from the same stream, it is inevitable that they come close to each other, sometimes closer than is preferred.
$220, Ryan.
$220 on the dock?
Okay, if the bear comes much closer, you're gonna have to pull your lines in. Kathy, I just want to let you know that there's a large dark
At Brooks Camp, the right-of-way is given to the bear.
Let's keep moving back, please.
Visitors are instructed in bear etiquette, to call out when they walk through the forest, and to keep a minimum distance of 50 yards between them and the animals at all times.
Most of them climb right over the bridge. If the water was deeper, they might swim under it.
One of them went under yesterday.
Several times a day, anglers are forced to become bear watchers until the bear moves on.
Barry, Chris?
Yeah, Chris at the tower.
You know there's a bear right behind the cushion?
Barry Gilbert is an animal behaviorist from Utah State University. He has come to Brooks Camp to observe the response of bears to the presence of people along the river.
Talk about the 206.
Besides his scientific training, he brings a unique perspective to this project. He was attacked by a grizzly some years earlier while conducting research in Yellowstone. Barry Gilbert, perhaps more than most, can appreciate the specialness of what is happening at Brooks Camp.
Contrary to some of the myths about how dangerous bears are, I think we have very few examples where over a long period of time, and I'm thinking of 10 or 20 years, where men and bears have been coming to the same place. Perhaps examples like this at salmon streams are the best ones, that the bears come to learn and transmit to their offspring that this is not a dangerous place to meet people. I've thought that the bears are probably viewing people as just another large mammal, but in some ways not much different than the birds on the shore. If they have no meaning to the bears, they don't harm them, they're not a food source, then the bears largely ignore them, except under those conditions in which they use the people to get access to the food, such as anglers with a fish on, and then the bears can start cueing on what the people are doing and come to associate fish with people, just as they do with garbage and backpack food, and that's when problems begin.
Barry, this is Kathy.
The efforts of the Bear Patrol are helped by Ranger Kathy Jope, who specializes in bear management.
Do you see anything else happening in the oxbow?
Not really. The female, the two cubs, just getting mobilized up there in the bank after her hour and a half rest, but that's about it.
Okay. Okay, thanks. I'm at the bridge and we had lost sight of it. Yeah. People are starting to move. Thanks. Why don't you snap the line and get the fish off?
Huh?
Snap the line and get the fish off. It's back way away from the edge.
Feels like it.
Just put the rod down.
There it goes. Oh, that was not what I had in mind when I hooked him.
People might be out in the river fishing, and yet if the people don't catch a fish, they always have grocery stores. Their survival doesn't depend on catching the fish. If the bears don't catch a fish, they don't have any alternative. I think here we're making a lot of effort to have this be one place where the bears can have the space. How much is it worth to us to keep bears here? We've shown in the lower 48 that we know how to kill bears, but it takes a lot more effort to live with bears.
Brooks Camp works in large part because of the effort by people to understand the bear, the constant vigilance of the rangers, and the bears themselves. It is a remarkable but fragile relationship, one that will be increasingly difficult to maintain as the popularity of the park grows. Far to the south of Brooks Camp is a place that embodies the tangled relationship of grizzlies and man. On a high plateau in northwestern Wyoming was created the world's first national park. The establishment of Yellowstone was seen as a commitment to keep the beauty of the land unchanged, to set aside a place where all could come and enjoy that beauty. An estimated 200 grizzlies make their home in and around Yellowstone National Park. Hemmed in by towns, ranching, and resource development, Yellowstone is their refuge, yet they've been placed on the federal threatened species list because of their small numbers and the scarcity of reproducing females.
Yellowstone National Park is the home for both grizzly and black bears. You're a visitor to the home of these wild animals. Simple precautions will help ensure
About 2 million people come to Yellowstone each year. At the height of summer, more than 25,000 people a day enter the park, most of them hoping to see a bear.
When a bear is present, always stay inside your car or trailer.
The tie between bears and humans in Yellowstone is complex. It goes back almost to the park's founding in 1872. Inquisitive opportunists, grizzlies and smaller black bears were soon attracted to the garbage thrown out. It was an easy and plentiful source of food. Watching the bears soon became a major attraction in Yellowstone. In the 1920s, naturalist talks were given at the feeding ground near Old Faithful. In the 1930s, the canyon area drew hundreds of people every evening to watch the bears dine on garbage from the hotel. But as the bears grew plump, there arose concern about the aesthetics and safety of grizzlies feeding on human garbage, of learning to identify people as a source of food. The grandstands were closed in the 1940s, but the grizzlies still fed at garbage dumps for another 2 decades. By 1968, the Park Service decided to sever the link between people, garbage, and bears once and for all. In a move that caused heated controversy, the dumps were closed. For humans, a management error was corrected. For bears, a major food source was gone. In their search for food elsewhere, an alarming number of grizzlies died at the hands of man. The garbage dumps are now part of park history. Today, every food scrap, paper plate, and soft drink can is trucked out of Yellowstone. Now the grizzlies are self-sufficient, wild and natural bears. But their future within Yellowstone, and especially on the land surrounding the park, remains in question. Great effort is taken to keep grizzlies and people apart. The enormous popularity of wilderness now presents the biggest threat to Yellowstone bears.
We'd just like to remind you that we've had grizzlies in the area all day today. Perhaps you've heard that.
No.
And to be very careful. We've had grizzlies near this campground off and on all summer, but we know that she's very near the campground tonight, so we're real concerned with food storage and smells and odors of food. So for your safety, we do require that you store all your food, cooking gear, coolers inside your vehicle overnight or when your camp is unattended. Our key to keeping this campground safe is keeping it very clean. So we appreciate your cooperation with that. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Backcountry Situation Report Update for August.
In the Bear Management Office at Park Headquarters, a constant balancing act is in progress. Closing areas of high bear use to people and relocating bears that wander into areas where people have priority. Repeat offenders must sometimes be destroyed.
Due to the presence of Bear 59. End of report. She has moved down here to Crockett
Ranger
Street.
Gary Brown and his staff carry the responsibility of monitoring the
She's
bears.
already back here on the divide.
Bear management, Kim.
Probably just beeline home.
No.
Okay, Bear 50 was moved, what, a week ago?
The bear loses when there's a conflict with people. We as a society are dominant. And if we have a conflict with the bear, then down the line, the bear will be the loser. So we have to give a little bit on our part and allow the bear some space, some tranquility at certain times, so it's not pushed into a conflict situation with people.
What do you think about Bear 50's future? Do you think she's a candidate for removal?
No, I would think a candidate for relocation.
Bears that come close to the road become the instant highlight of many vacations. But many people equate closeness with tameness. Bear 59 was considered a good bear by park rangers. She came close to where people were, but tolerated their presence. A few weeks after these pictures were taken, however, an amateur photographer followed and approached 59. She attacked, and in the encounter, the man was killed. As a result, 59 was shot, one of 3 Yellowstone females killed by humans that year.
That's a good fit.
Ironically, the beleaguered Yellowstone bears have provided the greatest information about grizzlies. In the 1960s, the first radio tracking of bears in the wild was part of a comprehensive study led by scientists John and Frank Craighead. The Craigheads were also among the first to sedate a bear to study its physiology.
Nose to eye.
They were the first to learn that although the blood of the bear is high in cholesterol, it does not suffer from heart disease. Its milk is rich, 1/3 of it fat. Grizzlies may live into their mid-20s, and some to 30. Each part of the Craighead study was new and often hazardous. With the bear's safety in mind, they had to experiment with the minimum dose of drug that would immobilize the animal until their work was done.
Wanna try it, Dave? I don't know. I'm trying, but let's try it. See. Let's get one in and then. You gotta get it cut. Watch it. Watch it, you.
Today, John's son Derek works with his father on a new study of the bear. Just beyond the Arctic Circle in northern Alaska, Derek's team spots a grizzly that will be the first to be fitted with a very special radio collar.
You want to make a pass at it first? Okay, just make one quick pass. We can turn them around so we're into the wind.
To dart a running bear from a helicopter requires an agile pilot and a marksman's skill.
Maybe a real good bear. That's a hit.
Derek carries out procedures standard in bear research.
For estimated age, I'm going to give her...
First, the female is given a physical examination to determine her age, reproductive condition, and overall health.
15. Nick.
A healthy female usually has her first litter at age 5.5 or 6, and continues to bear young into her 20s.
58.
This female, free of her latest cubs, is ready to mate again this year. Amazingly, an egg fertilized in June will be carried in suspended animation until she dens in late fall. The embryo will develop during hibernation.
Free?
Yeah.
That's 240.
240?
The small package on the collar contains a transmitter that talks to a satellite in orbit. The satellite relays back to Earth information about the bear's location.
If you can just slip it over its head, it usually means it's as loose as it can be without coming off.
The device can also record and send data about the surrounding temperature and whether the bear is active or resting.
I think that'll probably do it.
Looks pretty good.
Okay.
Soon the female will regain consciousness, but already she is sending information that may prove invaluable to our understanding of her kind. Satellite information is received at the Craigheads Research Center in Missoula, Montana.
On those grizzlies.
Okay.
John and a colleague are able to track a bear that is thousands of miles away, day or night.
Puts the bear right there. It's in that shrub tundra. She's been in that a lot.
Sure has. About 20% of our observations.
The brightly colored map is a comprehensive record of the types of vegetation and plant foods found throughout the study area in Alaska.
And this summarizes the locations.
It, too, has been assembled with the help of satellite information.
Boy, you've been busy plotting, haven't you? She's using this area a lot. That's definitely a center of activity, and it's got a lot of habitat types in there, and she's probably finding a wide range of food.
You know, there was about 3 weeks where she stayed within about a 50 square kilometer area across the Squirrel River, reaching the Cayana Hills, and then she...
Craighead and his team can study the animal's range and use of habitat in a way that was never before possible. Better understanding the bear's needs will help answer part of a pressing question. Can man and bear coexist? And if not, where will the grizzly be allowed to survive?
A really good concept of how these bears use their habitat.
Beyond the Arctic Circle, on the northern slope of Alaska's Brooks Range, is a vast land of magnificent desolation. As yet, no humans live here, and man has little impact on this part of North America. Life comes to this region but for a few brief months a year, the home of the Arctic grizzly. The beacon of a radio collar leads researchers to the remains of a female killed by a male. It is a harsh land, and sometimes the grizzly will turn on its own kind for nourishment.
There it is right there.
Harry Reynolds and John Hechtel of Alaska's Department of Fish and Game saw the male over her body during a scouting flight.
Some ribs and piece of, here's the esophagus, piece of the esophagus.
Now they return for field work.
Looks like collar's in good shape. No problems with it.
He hasn't bitten into it.
No?
There's a few,
There's
bite,
a
marks.
few bite marks there. Huh.
No bones inside.
I think so.
Some ribs. Where's the head end there?
I think that's the head in there. She should have had cubs this year, and I think maybe she was protecting the cubs and let the male get too close to her and he killed her.
Reynolds prefers not to handle cubs, but a radio collar on a female with young must be replaced. First, the mother is darted. The cubs are caught by hand. Though only 4 months old, the cubs have the teeth, claws, and temper of a grizzly. Now they become the youngest members in the study group. The information gleaned from the research in the far north is full of bleak statistics. Females have their first offspring late, at about age 8. During their adult years, they may bear 4 litters with 2 cubs each. Of these, half will perish in the first year of life. The collar change complete, the cubs are returned to their mother's side. This is the 4th litter for this female. Only one of her previous cubs is known to have lived into its 2nd summer.
Okay, we'll put you right next to your mama. When you wake up, know right where she is.
One of these cubs will probably not be with her in the coming spring. Southwest of Anchorage on the Alaska Peninsula is an astounding place where the bear is pressured neither by the environment nor by man.
So I was going to take the group up today, and you could come up and get the folks that had to leave early if you wanted.
Okay, sounds good.
Larry A. Miller and Polly Hessing supervise visitors to the McNeil River State Game Sanctuary, the only place in North America where people must have a permit just to see grizzly bears.
Tolerant.
Yeah.
And yet you don't recognize her.
I think she's pretty good, but, you know, watch her.
Okay.
I guess I better hit the road. Let's go.
You're the leader.
During July and August, Larry leads up to 10 people a day on a 1.5 mile hike to witness one of the wonders of this earth. Selected by lottery, some of the campers have come from halfway around the world to visit the falls on McNeil River. The bear is considered to be a loner, to be edgy and intolerant of even being in the presence of other bears. But at McNeil River, as many as 60 bears at a time come to the falls to fish.
Slowly. It may not look like it now, but the bears are very aware of us. Lots of bears will be coming close, but don't get too concerned. The thing not to do is to move fast, especially to move fast away from bears. I'll be watching everything.
Every year, the salmon swim upstream from the sea to spawn. Every year, bears come to the river to feast. And every year, for the last 3 decades, people have been treated to a rare spectacle. Equipped with photo and video gear to record this once-in-a-lifetime experience, they often look more like a press corps than visitors to a wildlife wonder. But there's much more to do here than take pictures of bears catching salmon. In a proximity that would be folly anywhere else, people can observe bears being bears, the social structure at a midsummer's fishing camp. The white-flecked mouth is a sign of stress, but the bears overcome their innate wariness to venture near one another and, surprisingly, near people. Human behavior here is predictable. Every day, the same number of people arrive at the same time and stay confined to the gravel viewing pad. There is no physical barrier to keep grizzlies and people apart. With bears all around, the viewer feels like part of the landscape, almost invisible. The atmosphere is one of conscious tolerance. Large adult males that normally would confront one another fish side by side. And two 12-year-olds, long past the wrestling matches of youth, have a playful tussle. One explanation is the enormous amount of food. The time at McNeil is the nutritional highlight of each bear's season. An adult can easily put away as many as 15 salmon a day. Those not accomplished at fishing can cultivate the art of fish stealing. There are so many salmon that the urge to catch them goes on, even when there is nowhere left to put them. The bears at McNeil River are regulars, and many are known by name. 14-year-old Flashman, sated on Salmon Row. Patchbutt earned his name as a cub, but now his broken jaw sets him apart. Little Dark Monkey Face. Ms. Mouse with a sprained paw. 15-year-old Chaser, one of the largest males and in his prime. And Romeo, who has seen better days.
That bear out there, the light-colored one, is called Romeo. He's one of the older males around. This year when he came in, he was real thin, rather decrepit, slow-moving. He's getting fish. He's doing okay. He's putting on weight. But he's getting up to the point where one of these seasons he's not going to show up again.
Lanky, a 22-year-old female, fishes with her cub. Her style of snagging salmon has been copied by another offspring, Teeny.
That business of spreading the hind legs and leaning way out and using the forepaw to test the water is common to both bears. Whether that's learned behavior or what Teeny observed Lanky doing, or if it's somehow genetically coded for him to fish that way, I don't know.
It is known that cubs learn much of their behavior by watching their mothers, including what to eat and how to eat it. 8 summers before, Lanky brought Teeny to the falls for the first time. Now Teeny comes to the falls with 2 cubs of her own and fishes in precisely the same spot and in precisely the same way. There's another lesson the young learn at the falls, perhaps the most valuable of all: how to be together with other powerful, potentially aggressive animals. There is enough food and space for everyone, and for the benefit of all, the bears have adapted to share it. Those who witness the village of bears during the weeks of summer at McNeil River are given a rare and precious glimpse of another species. It is probably the closest any human beings will come to entering the world of the bear. Alaska has been called America's last frontier, and it is here, perhaps, that the future of the grizzly will be decided. Parts of Alaska may never be developed, and those may prove the bear's last strongholds. For elsewhere, a familiar pattern has already begun: the clear-cutting of old-growth forests, the coming of resource development that will alter the face of the land forever, and where once there was only meadow, the appearance of homesteaders' cabins. Until now, the coming of men with machines has meant the disappearance of wilderness, and with it, the grizzly. Only its name has remained. In the old legend, it was the bear who taught man how to survive. this changing world, it now seems that the secret of how the grizzly will survive is known only to humans. Now the snow comes. Autumn is done, and the bear goes to its winter's sleep as it has for thousands of years, as it will next year, and the year after, if man wishes it so.
Your journey was made possible by a grant from the people of Chevron. We're proud to bring you television that brings new worlds to your world.
Coming soon from National Geographic Video. Witness the incredible. At the speed of a shutter, we find a miraculous landscape where time stands still, where the minute become monstrous, where the brilliant and the breathtaking combine in a dazzling kaleidoscope. Journey with National Geographic beyond the naked eye. Enter the invisible world. National Geographic Video, undeniably collectible and affordably priced, only from Vestron Video.